the love of fandom and the escapism of pop culture.
To the seas of Naboo
and the direwolves of Winterfell.
All the way to the streets of Haddonfield.
Join us as we call the banners for the House of the Empire.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the House of the Empire. It's going to be a probably a light episode tonight, but we got a bunch of stuff to get into. Randy, how's it going?
It was a typical Monday, but I'm here. Things will get better, knowing that get to have some fun discussion here because there's a lot of fun Star Wars stuff came out, which I'm excited about. And we have some other stuff that just happened over the weekend that, it's we got some good talking points.
Yeah, I mean, there's some Halloween to talk about a little later in terms of the game. And actually, a couple of gaming things, one that is not specifically their game. But we got some Halloween to talk about. We got some Welcome to Derry, the It franchise to talk about. Cena's last match a little later on. And then right out of the gate here, we got Avengers Doomsday. If you have not seen the leaked teaser, we'll fill you in on that and talk about what you can expect with the movie. Pretty significant spoiler. I don't even know if you can call it a teaser. It felt like more like a post-credit scene than a teaser, considering it only features one character. But right out of the gate here, the galaxy far, far away, making several statements in the gaming world. Randy, last Thursday was the Gaming Awards, and they unveiled Fate of the Old Republic. What are your early impressions from what you saw/heard?
Well, I mean, obviously, being just a cinematic, you can only, assume what it potentially could be in terms of just the overall look and feel of the game. But if I am going to go by the cinematic itself, it feels like it's going to have a bit of a darker tone, more like just trying to just discover what's happened. Because all we get is a ship and a Jedi, and that's really it. But then, of course, we go online and we see some of the stuff that's leaked about what the game's going to be about, single player, and just an RPG. And just given that, I hope that it's more than a spiritual successor. I hope that it's kind of answers some questions we've had about KOTOR 1 and 2. I would love if they give us more lore and dive into what happened to the Exile and Revan. I guess we'll have to wait and see there. But yeah, they talk about being a spiritual successor to KOTOR, and we get to we know it's set in the future. We just don't know how far into the future. So yeah, it's whet my appetite enough that I'm excited for it. I don't know how long it's going to take to really put in development and finally get a release of some sort, but I think it's going to be worth the wait regardless, considering who's helming the project. So did you mute yourself?
Yeah, give a couple more thoughts. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, it's I thought it was kind of neat seeing Malik's old ship all just basically crash landed on a planet. Clearly, we're going to get to see some sort of exploration. And maybe we'll get to the exploration of that. I don't know. Because, again, it's a cinematic. You never know what you're going to get with those. But, I don't know. I feel like this is a nice step in the right direction. Granted, it would have been nice to get some KOTOR 1 and 2 news. But we got this, and I think it was put together pretty well. Again, it's just a cinematic, so you're only going to get so much out of that. But hopefully we'll get more story notes as time goes on, and we get to know more about the character. I mean, is this is this a character from the Old Republic? Is this almost like a continuation of the MMO? That'd be kind of cool to learn that some of the characters from the MMO end up making an appearance in this too. So you never know, anything's possible. But hopefully it doesn't take 4 years to make. Hopefully we get it, or even hopefully we'll get it within the next 3 years. That'd be nice. I would assume that they've already put some work into it rather than just throwing it together cinematic and see, like, there it is.
They have indeed, and it sounds like more than we thought. It's very interesting because you got to do some deep diving and digging. Big shout out to channels like Mr. Matty Plays and 100% Star Wars. Yeah, so there's enough out there that you can piece together what's going on. And we're going to be joined by Johnny here in a second. Just my general thoughts on I think it was 90 seconds, the teaser. They really, in a nutshell, like, minimal, right? Like, when you think about what the teaser actually contains, like, even the shot from in space was like, it was microscopic, and a lot of, like, element shots. There's not a whole lot there, right? Like, right up until you see the Sith interdictor, or the Leviathan, and that's my money on what it is the Leviathan. There's not enough there, but there's enough to make you interested in what's going on. I don't know. What was your thought? I thought it was very... I don't know if you remember some of the promotional material for Knights of the Old Republic 2, but they had, like, actually, even the first game, the very first trailer I ever saw for Knights of the Old Republic was attached to Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. And it was like this generic kind of Obi-Wan looking Jedi guy on a platform that's spinning, and 1 second his lightsaber is blue, and as he spins around, it has a red glow to it, and basically make your choices. And I thought the end where the girl ignites her lightsaber, who, by the way, I don't think is going to be like a specific character. I think it's going to be very much a create your own character type deal. When she ignites it, it's very much blue on one side, and then the red glow from that room on the other side. So I felt like it harkened back to that. It was cool. I mean, I think the thing people most popped for, other than the interdictor, was just the title at the end. And, like, I was pretty pissed off because I don't think the leaker handled it right at all, the way he went about it. And he got a lot of shade for it. Not that he was wrong. He ended up being, I guess, kind of right in the end. But the way he went about it, ruffled some feathers. And he knew what he was doing. He was getting the Knights of the Old Republic people, really hyped up. And, many of us thought for nothing. Some of us were afraid that it was going to be racers of the Old Republic, because word had dropped, like, I think 48 hours before, that there was going to be some sort of new Star Wars racer game announced. And it's like, just that'd be a bad image all around. Like, if you had no actual Old Republic game and you chose the name, or just even choose to do a racer game in the Old Republic, even if it's like the Swoops. would not have gone over well, in my opinion. But I liked what they showed. We'll dive into more of what it means because there is legitimate official stuff out there now. Couple of interviews, couple of screenshots that are on the official website that have taglines to them that you can read into them. But the guy who kind of broke it to our entire group there is here with us for a short time tonight. Johnny, you were the one that kind of let the group know fate of the Old Republic. So take it away. Your thoughts, man, on what they showed.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the Game Awards with some friends in a Discord server, and it caught me off guard. I was not expecting it with zero build, zero hype right off the open like that. So it definitely caught me off guard. Like watching it, it was one of those sort of, is this what I think it is? Is what's happening? Because like you see the look and the ambiance, and there's a lot of things that are very Star Warsy, but at the same time, you're not sure until you're sure. And then you're sure, and then you start seeing things, and it's like, wait a minute, hold on a second. Wait, no, what? And then you get the reveal at the end of who's working on it, and it just, everything just coalesced into a moment of genuine excitement for me. I ran right to the group chat and told you guys, and then I found the video and sent that, and it was, oh man, everything about it was exciting to the point that like watching it live, I didn't even notice the ship until you pointed it out, some 10 or so minutes later when you had a chance to sit down and watch it. And then it's like, oh shit, that was, and it's exciting, and then, we start getting more and more out of it and more thoughts and more, sort of, I don't want to say suggestions, but like, personal beliefs of, oh, is this, could that be, and, my brother and I started talking about it the next day. And there was a lot of that going on, like, is that a Shan? Was the question that he said. And I'm like, well, I don't think it's the one we get in the Old Republic, but somewhere in between, maybe. It's like, I'm excited for the possibilities. There's so much there. There's so much meat, and seeing who did it was just, oh man, it got me. Watching the Game Awards from the time that trailer happened to the time the Divinity trailer ended up coming on, probably about half hour, 40 minutes later, I remember nothing that happened in between those two events. Like it's just, it went from one blur to another blur, and I'm so hyped. Like I know we're still a ways off, but like what I saw
apparently not as far as some people think, and we'll get into that.
To me, what it felt like, and this is just my own sort of presumption, is that felt so much like one of those cinematic videos we got in the hype to the Old Republic.
Yes.
And that excites me because it sort of leaves so much on the table as far as the story goes, right? Because like in the hype to the Old Republic, we got almost nothing that was directly related to the actual game. Just
really just Malaga stuff, right? Malaga and Shan stuff.
So it's like, I love the idea of going down that road again, because that was one of the things that was done best for the Old Republic, was building it up and getting us ready for, at least the people like us anyway, and I love the idea of it being related to, Knights of the Old Republic and tying up loose ends and, filling in some things. I'm excited for all of the possibilities we have right now.
Well, a lot has happened since the debut of that trailer, and before you had sent the link, and when you had sent you had said that it was Fate of the Old Republic. So the first thing I did was go on X, and there was fairly reputable people jumping to a lot of wrong conclusions. And if you look at what I had sent in the chat, you see how drastically it changes. And now, thanks to a couple of interviews and Casey Hudson himself, by the way, if you don't know who Casey Hudson is, game director behind the original Knights of the Old Republic, game director behind the original 3 Mass Effect games, dude knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what we do know as of now. It is a new company that's being paid a lot of money to do this. The company was only founded 6 months ago. But the belief is now that a skeleton crew, with himself included, have been working on the game longer than that. But now they've reached a point where they need a lot more hands involved. And this was as much of a recruitment teaser as it was for talent as it was for fans. And I don't even remember the name of the damn company now.
Arcanaut.
Thank you. So we know that. Here's the other things we can tell you is the ship is 100% a Sith interdictor, which is whether it's the exact ship Malik was on or just another one. Who knows? My guess is it is the Leviathan from Knights of the Old Republic. But it should be noted that on the official website where they have taglines for each screen capture, it's listed as an ancient ship, meaning a significant amount of time has passed since Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. In an interview, they confirm, they as in Casey, confirms that this game is set at the end of the Old Republic era, which means this game takes place after Knights of the Old Republic 1, 2, and the Old Republic. So in very much it being a spiritual successor to Knights of the Old Republic, it is still in a way kind of unofficially KOTOR 3 because we've not gotten another single player game in that era since then. I believe, now this is again just what I believe, that the character is just a stand-in and we're going to have character creation choices rather being set to one character. Could be wrong, still too early to tell. But Jason Schreier, who's known as a pretty big video game leaker, had this really confusing tweet. I don't know if it was the next day or the day after. I can't remember. But he said, and I quote, "This game is in its infancy and likely will not see the light of day until the PS7." And then he said 2030. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the PS7 is not going to be out in 2030. So I don't know what the fuck he was talking about there. But his timeline for a major AAA title open world RPG game is about right, about half a decade, right? And so that game, Steam, because of how big of a game reporter he is, and everybody was picking it up, and Casey Hudson ended up being like, "Yeah, about those 2030 rumors, you don't need to worry about them. The game is going to be out before then. I'm not getting any younger." Which makes me wonder, one, please don't be Star Wars Outlaws 2.0, where it's too rushed. But two, just how long has this game been worked on by a small group of people? Because it's really the only explanation to be able to beat a 2030 release date. And most people don't think he means tongue-in-cheek, oh, well, it's out December 2029. A lot of people are drawing the Christmas 2028 to May 2029, which is quite far away still. But like that's a very brave thing to tweet out, because he could easily eat his words if this game is not out before then. Randy, I'll hand it off to you first. Your thoughts on one, this being at the end of the Old Republic era, the Sith interdictor ship, or the Leviathan classified as an ancient ship, and Casey Hudson basically throwing some shade at Jason Schreier, saying, no, this game's going to be out before 2030.
So set at the end of the Old Republic. I mean, when you think about it, it's a time frame that really has never been really looked into too much. It does leave things open for a lot of lore leading to characters that we're familiar with, that we've met, whether it be KOTOR 1, 2, or even the Old Republic. We know that you could easily just tie all that in together, which is kind of cool. As for the interdictor, I think they put that in there definitely for anybody who's a fan of KOTOR, because they'll instantly recognize it as Malik's ship. So obviously that's going to add to the hype, and it could have been simply just a quick little marketing tool or a quick little nod to the fan base that knows that ship. But if you think about it, it would make sense if it's an ancient ship. It's stuck, on a planet wherever it crash landed, and maybe there's something on there you need, so you have to explore it, and you have to deal with the ghosts of the past. Maybe we actually get to see force ghosts of characters we've long wished to see again. So without not really knowing the full story or understanding the whole plot device, so to speak, we can speculate all we want. And I think that's kind of the brilliant part of all this, of getting to see such a small sampling of what they're trying to do in the sense of just tone and anything you could potentially be doing as a character. Because I think that the character on the ship that you see flying in there to explore it is more than likely the character you get to create and customize and ultimately play. As for, the tweets and whatnot, sometimes maybe this is his swan song. Maybe he's considering the idea. Maybe this is going to be it for him, and he wants this to be, that's why it's like, I'm not getting any younger. So maybe that's hey, this is my magnum opus. This is going to be the way I want to go out and give the fans what they've always wanted, an epic adventure set to the Old Republic, and giving you kind of like your KOTOR 3 without giving you KOTOR 3. It wouldn't shock me if the game has been written, and obviously storyboards and things like that are set in place. And obviously we have the teaser, but you have to look at everything that goes into to creating a game is very similar to what goes into writing a movie and making a movie. So it very well could be that this has been in production for a while. It's just now he's to that stage where all the technical stuff is getting in the way, and he needs the bodies to really bring it to life. And I could see it in late 2028. I think that's a very real possibility, depending on how much is done. I mean, if anything, 2029, but I would cut it off there. If he's trying to get it out before 2030, I really feel like you're going to have to have a really tight ship and really make sure that everything's in place, and that they have just a broad vision that everybody can get behind, so that they can really work hard to get this out and try their best to give us the utmost quality. Because we've had this issue before with Star Wars games. We've had this issue with video games in general. AAA studios trying to push stuff out as quickly as possible for cash grab purposes. It's one of the reasons why Outlaws failed the way it did. It should have been another year or so before they put it out, so everything was polished. And instead, we got what we got. And then they tried to fix it afterwards, and still, it's too late. Obviously, with what they're doing now, it's not a AAA studio, and which is fine. I'm fine with that. We've seen a lot of smaller studios put out excellent games. So this has a real potential here to be something special, and I don't care how long it takes, as long as we get it and it's done well and executed well. I think we're all in for a treat.
It does sound like Lucasfilm and Disney wrote them one hell of a big check. So We'll see what comes of that. Now, Johnny, same thing to you, man. Casey Hudson saying no way the game is going to be out between 2030, or sorry, before 2030. I'm not getting any younger, and thoughts on really this being at the end of the Old Republic era. I'm really excited to hear your answer to this and to discuss some of the possibilities because I know how you feel about where I'm going with this. But if you look at Star Wars timelines, the end of the Old Republic era belongs to what Sith villain, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm not going to knock on that door in the opportunity and hope and pray that should they not go through it, I will be too disappointed in wherever they do go. But that road is definitely there, and it is a canon road as well. So
fill the audience in because they may not have caught up.
Well, of course, we're referring to the man responsible for the rule of two. And I it's,
and there's some Revan connections there too.
There really is. It's exciting. The idea of having him in the playground, but it's cautious optimism, I guess. Would I love for Darth Bane to be a part of this? Yes. But at the same time, he's one of those characters that I don't like the idea of taking that. Now, there's a simple solution to that, and it's, a frequent collaborator of Casey's.
Yes.
Whom also happens to be the one who wrote said character's story, who has a previous experience in writing Star Wars video games. Of course, I'm talking Drew Carpison. Now, if you can get him on board too, then I don't really care. If you want to go down the Bane road with Drew doing the writing, which I don't see a universe where that isn't the case, honestly. At least I hope that that's the case. Then I'm for it. I'm excited. You can bang down that door and I'll be happy, even if it's not the story he told originally, which I doubt it would be. Whatever they did tell would be sad. It'd be like Tim Zahn, writing the Thrawn trilogy and then writing the new canon Thrawn trilogy. They're different, but not too different.
Very much so. And I can't think of a better guy to write something that involves Bane, but that would also very clearly touch on past lore with Revan and Malak, and spiritually might even be in the game as well. There is no better person to have than Drew Carpation. There just isn't. He's kind of like the godfather of that time, right? A lot of people think he's just the Knights of the Old Republic guy and the Revan novel guy. But it's not true. He's the Bane trilogy guy as well.
And, let's look deeper into that history. If you look into his history with Casey's only done one game that Drew didn't write. And that was the third Mass Effect game. Drew did the first two Mass Effect games as well. And I don't know. That's that's a handshake waiting to happen. I hope anyway. But back to the other point in your question, is the concern for the studio. And yeah, I'm a little concerned that a studio that was just founded this past July is the date they give on their website. A little concerning that, we might be looking at a game in 3 years. At the same time, I'm not as concerned, being that this seems to likely be a single project studio whose sole purpose is entirely this. And you can get some magic happening there. And, I'm not usually one to be like, small studios can't do things well and in short time. I'm trying to pull up my accurate numbers here to see exactly what it was, but like I feel like the production run from announcement to release, 6 years. 6 years was the production cycle for Expedition 33. Now I know that 3 years is different, but I think the difference is it being essentially a studio's first effort and the people in charge have never done this before to someone who has done this before. That makes a difference. I know we're talking different, cycles in production and different technology and hardware, but let's be honest, I think in today's day and age, it's easier and harder to do these types of projects. There's more assistance available in the programming and things like that. And I'm not even talking AI, which is a kettle of fish I don't want to get into. But like just from a technology standpoint, it's easier to do some of this deep, harder like rendering work through computer help than it was 20 years ago, when they did the first Knights of the Old Republic game. So I mean, I'm hopeful that they can meet the window and satisfactorily meet the window, because I will admit I am afraid. If they're pushing like 2030, I'm happy. That's perfect. That's 5.5, 6 years. That's the cycle that Expedition 33 took, and look at how that took the world by storm this year. Like as a video game,
Never even heard.
nominated. It was the most nominated game at the awards this year, and it won the most awards this year
It won 9 awards
in the history of the video game awards.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is. That's how out of the gaming loop I am. I will say this though, is the game is written. The story is done. That came out over the weekend. However, when you look at the team, and the team that's assembled so far is out there, there's no like head writer listed, and I can't help but wonder if they're saving a Drew Carpathian announcement for a just another big deal, right? I have to believe that they were working on this before the company was officially publicly founded. And the other thing is, most of Casey Hudson's team are people that have been with him before. It's not like he just went out there and grabbed a small squad of new guys. These are people that he trusts and has experience working with. And I think those are good things. I think, say they get a December 2028 release date. You're looking at about 3.5 years, maybe 4, depending on, what kind of skeleton crew was working on this. I want to, as someone who's in bad health, I can tell you that I would like an earlier date. Gives me more confidence in my ability to see this game come to fruition. And I hope it does. And I mean, the Bane stuff's obviously speculation on our behalf, but timeline-wise, it would fit. It would also get a pop from the fan base. There's going to be nods to the Knights of the Old Republic games from the past, characters of the past, etc. It's exciting, and I like that he has the confidence to sit there and say, no, the game is going to be out before then. He absolutely could eat his words, for sure, given how long it's taken certain other Star Wars games to come out, or not come out at all. But I think Johnny's point on, like, it seems like this studio was created just for this game, is accurate. And if you have one main goal, rather than splintering your staff in 2 or 3 different ways, you have a better chance of delivering a better product, in my opinion. I know there's people out there that are like, so I guess that's it for the Knights of the Old Republic remake, right? Wrong. In fact, over the weekend, it was confirmed that the game is in very good shape and in development and still on that timeline we've been talking about on this show here today and in the past, a 2027 release date. It sounds like the is it Madhead Studios? It's the specific department working on it. I can't remember because I know they just inherited guys from the Jurassic Park survival team too. But the people that are doing the Hellraiser game are the people that are doing the Knights of the Old Republic game. And Hellraiser is expected in 2026, and Knights of the Old Republic remake is expected in 2027. I have to wonder if there's some strategy there, despite them being two different studios. At the end of the day, they both answer to the Mouse House and Lucasfilm. You get the Knights of the Old Republic remake out, and if it's a hit and it's received well, all that's going to do is, boost the excitement for Fate of the Old Republic. Thoughts on us getting 2 Old Republic games, possibly 3 Old Republic games over the course of the next half a decade, Randy?
I think it's extremely exciting because as Star Wars fans, it's something we haven't had in a long time. Obviously, KOTOR and KOTOR 2 combined the story, and then you mixed in stuff from the Old Republic MMO, like all that lore, all that story, the idea, the getting to revisit that world, and especially with the I mean, I guess you can call them remakes or remasters or rehashes, however you want to look at it. Top tier voice acting that we didn't get in the early 2000s. We know the music's going to be on point. Maybe some refreshed mechanics, similar to like what Square did with the Final Fantasy VII remake. I think there's the potential, and the sky's the limits. And I think as long as it's done well and it is well received, by 2027, just to have that alone as part of the 50th anniversary of Star Wars itself, that's huge. And to get KOTOR 2 with the missing DLC, essentially the missing stuff that they promised us that we never got, just to add more to that story, that'd be worth playing again, just for the sheer fact of getting content we'd never seen before. We've only read about it. And then to lead into Fate of the Old Republic, where everything we've done leads up to that game, and we get to just get potentially more answers for questions we had while playing the other 2 games. It's really exciting to think about, and it's honestly, it's a smart thing to do, especially if it's done well, because it gives us solid storytelling on a scale that we haven't seen in Star Wars video games in a good long time. And honestly, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be able to just be like, what is he doing this weekend? Oh, he's got his head stuck in Star Wars. You're damn right I do, because I got some amazing stuff to play, and I can't wait. I'm really putting a lot of faith here that we're going to get something great here out of this. And I tried to put my faith like that in Outlaws, and but that was Ubisoft. That was them. They screwed it up. They're a garbage studio anyway. So yeah, that's all I can say is, buckle up, because I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Star Wars content, video game wise.
Yeah, the last game I liked from them was The Division. So, had some fun with that for a couple of months with guys online. Johnny, are you at all surprised that this Fate of the Old Republic game doesn't cancel out the Knights of the Old Republic remake?
Why would it? It's not the same studio. That's really what it just comes down to me, is it's independent studios working on independent projects. One has zero effect on the other. It's at this point, I do
still the same company writing the paycheck to both.
Well, yes, but at this point in something like a video game, I don't think, yes, you could argue it's just spending good money after bad, but they've spent enough on it at this point that they're going to see it through, so they can hope to get back at least some of it. They're deep enough into this that they're not going to just pull the ripcord now. Like, they had the opportunity. If they were going to pull the ripcord, it would have been when the studio changed. They would have just said, no, that's enough. We've spent enough money already. We're not going to continue down this rabbit hole. That was the opportunity to pull the ripcord. And when they didn't, there's at least still enough faith that they can make enough money off this to do it. I don't think, some people are trying to think they're spending AAA money on it. They're not. I guarantee you that the budget is probably only in maybe the tens right now, which is still a lot. But in like the game universe, it's really not.
Wait, which game?
For the remakes.
Oh no, over 100 million already, man. Because remember, you got to look at what Asper was doing. Aspire, I don't know how it's pronounced. And the deal that Sony had with Aspire, like you can't just not count that money, right? Even if the new company had to start fresh, which is seemingly what seemed to happen. If you include what Asper and Sony had, which by the way is no longer a Sony exclusive, the initial deal, just to begin with, was north of $70 million. So that game specifically has definitely eclipsed over 100 million, but that's also due to there's no really other way to put it at this point than a complete and utter failure by Aspire.
I mean, I know that's what the deal was. I don't think they got the whole of it. But, you know, that's business minutia. And, you know, we can only go off of the numbers that we have access to. And that's the numbers they announce when they make these deals. So, yeah, like the announced numbers are well north of 100. I don't think the actual money outlay is that high yet. But I wouldn't be surprised. And even if it is, it's still a drop in the bucket when, you know, other games are seeing budgets in the, you know, hundreds to, you know, like when you get up to like the high tier AAA games, you're looking at like $500 million, you know, like
Grand Theft Auto 6 is reportedly their budget is between 1 to 2 billion.
Exactly. Like it's, you know, in reality, this is the budget difference between a Halloween movie and a superhero movie. You know, like that's sort of the way I look at it. And it's no, the two things have zero to do with each other. And they had the opportunity to pull the ripcord. They didn't. So they're going to see it through. And it'll happen when it happens. Like, I'm not expecting anything big and huge out of this. It's going to make its money. It's going to make its money on, you know, the people like us who are probably going to spend the money to buy it. It's going to, you know, it's going to get its money back in the people who, you know, the generation of ours who are introducing their kids to video games and, you know, playing with them and things like that. And, oh, you like playing RPG games? Well, great. Here's one from when I was a kid. You know, this was my favorite RPG. You know, like it's going to make its money back. There's not a concern of that, in my opinion. And it just, you know, I'm not worried about it. I think people who are concerned are just don't understand the metrics of the business. This is an entirely different studio. It's an entirely different, you know, financial outlay. And when this is all said and done, I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that the fate of the Old Republic sees a budget in the 5 to 10 times higher than this one ever got. You know, like it's apples and oranges. The two things don't matter to it. So like, I understand people who were like, oh, we're going to get something from it and expecting big news this weekend. But like, if you think these two things affect each other, you're naive to the structure of the business, which is fine for the average, you know, for the average person, you know, someone who doesn't deep dive into the business of it. But, you know, when there are actual Twitter accounts and people who should know better saying these things, and it's just like, now you're just spreading misinformation. You just need to sit down and shut up.
Yeah,
you know better.
Like the PS7 being out in 2030. Yeah. Good luck with that. I don't know, you know, who knows what 2030 looks like, but I will bet everything I own there's no PS7 in 2030. Anyways,
look at the life cycle of the PS5. It's probably more likely the PS6 than the PS7 by 2030.
Yeah, we're not getting, like, we may get the next generation this decade. We're not getting 2 generations.
Right?
That's ridiculous. Like, unless we go full computer, then maybe, because then you can go through generations quicker. But like, as long as, you know, consoles are bring them home and that's what you've got for the life cycle of the console, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 a decade. That's it.
Very much so. Well, dude, we know you got to go. Thanks for coming out to talk some Fate of the Old Republic with us, and have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you. I don't know what we're doing on the 29th because there's no episode next week, so we'll either see you at the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
Well, thanks everybody. Hope everybody has a happy, fun, fulfilling holidays and all that. And if we don't see you before the new year, happy New Year. Enjoy the Stranger Things of the holiday season if that's your thing. I know that's my thing. I'm gonna be balling out on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. I've already structured plans for those holidays around watching Stranger Things. So I'm excited for that. That's huge for me. So if that's your thing, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it doesn't let you down. I hope it doesn't let me down. But have fun, and we'll see y'all when we see y'all.
I'm sure it'll be right up there with Game of Thrones season 8 for you. Alrighty.
That's just rude.
Randy, there was an update on the weekend about Star Wars Eclipse, which, interestingly enough, is a game that's set in the High Republic, which is after the Old Republic in terms of eras. Funny how it seems like all these dots are starting to connect. The rumors of this game's death have greatly been exaggerated, as it came out, I don't know if it was Saturday or Sunday, that they have been filming cinematics basically all of this year and will continue into next year. And both, like we've been saying, Star Wars Eclipse and Knights of the Old Republic, the remake, are currently on a pathway, anyways, for 2027 releases, aka the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. Are you someone that had a chance to play, whether it's Heavy Rain or Detroit Becoming Human or one of those other games that Quantic Dream did? Obviously, the head of the studio is mired in controversy, but that doesn't mean everybody else should be pay the piper for his, poor taste in certain things. Where's your excitement level for this? It sounds like things are going well.
So my first foray into the world of Quantic Dream was actually Indigo Prophecy. That was like their very first game they did back on like the original Xbox and PS2, stuff like that. And I really enjoyed like the narrative driven game. The quick time events were okay. It got a little boring as time went on, but as we know, that's kind of their signature thing, is having multiple branching story arcs, quick time events, things like that you had, especially like with Heavy Rain and some of the stuff you had to do in that game. Detroit Become Human, all your characters could die, all your characters could live. It's like your choices really shape the story, and that's why I had faith that with Eclipse, what they were going to do, and it was going to be heavily story driven. Obviously, as we know, their biggest hurdle was getting combat right, especially if you're using a lightsaber, using the Force, things like that. It's sometimes, like with guns or laser, blasters, things like that. It's kind of easy with a quick time event, but when it comes to lightsaber combat, using the Force, things of that nature, that's a little different. So you need to have a solid control scheme for your combat. And I'm glad they finally surpassed that hurdle. I'm not surprised that they've been filming cinematics all this year, because the amount of story that's going to go into this, the amount of branching paths, the choices that you make, how it affects the entire story, it doesn't shock me at all. And I'm happy that they're taking their time and really giving us something that's very in depth and very character driven, because that's just what they do. So the chance to get a Star Wars game like this that has so many choices, so many different characters, so many ways of just playing the game itself, it really is exciting, because they do have a really good track record of putting out great story driven games.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I've been burnt so many times by Star Wars games that either get severely delayed or canceled. But when you look at, the three for me are the Knights of the Old Republic remake, Star Wars Eclipse, and Fate of the Old Republic. Potentially, a Knights of the Old Republic 2 remake as well, which representatives from Lucasfilm were forced to confirm as of March this year was on the pathway, and planning stages were already happening, which was the reason for the cancellation of the primary reason for them pulling the plug on the Aspire DLC there with the content for that game. I just think it's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan if you're a video game fan, but I think you always have to take everything with a massive grain of salt. We obviously didn't give that racer game that's coming out too much attention. It's not a game that I would pay money for. It's just not. If it goes on Game Pass, great, but I'm not paying $100 for a Star Wars racer game. It's just not happening. But I think it's an exciting time right now for sure. That is going to bring us to our next segment here tonight, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, but the Avengers Doomsday teaser, and I use that word very loosely, has leaked because of their fossil-like thinking of, well, let's only release it in theaters because there's no way someone's going to leak bad quality versions of this. And there's a ton of them in like fucking 240. At least there was earlier. I know you said the one got taken down, but essentially it feels like a post-credit scene. It literally only features one character that we know, and then technically there's another character in it. And since this has dropped, a couple of fairly big insiders have come out and said that the character featured in this trailer isn't just in the movie, he is the lead of the movie. And at the end of said teaser, it comes up, Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday. I know the Falcon and the Winter Soldier thing, which I actually liked that show, but didn't necessarily get the reception they thought it would. I know that fourth Captain America movie, despite it featuring Harrison Ford, got a terrible reception. It certainly feels like the Russos have just decided, you know what? We are hanging our hats again on Chris Evans and RDJ. That's basically what's happening here.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that that they feel the need to do that, but I guess the idea is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sort of applies here, I guess, is what they're trying to do. And I'm not saying that I'm gonna hate on what they've done. They did pretty well with with Infinity War and Endgame, and being able to juggle the insane amount of heroes and villains we had in those two movies. Obviously, this is a little different. This is a lot more. Obviously, Cap has always been a fan favorite, especially Chris Evans' Cap. I'm not saying that the thing is, I liked the fourth movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm not sitting there saying it's good, it's Oscar worthy or anything of that nature, but I always thought it was just a fun movie, and an interesting way to give us the lore, at least the MCU's lore of Red Hulk. But as for just what they're doing now, I kind of wish they just never said anything. Don't give us a breakdown of when you're going to send out trailers or what they're going to be for, or just do it. Just keep your mouth shut and do it. That way, even if they do leak, at least they didn't have a set schedule. The whole 4-week schedule of 4 weeks, 4 different teasers. I mean, it is what it is. I get it. It's a way to try to get people to go see the new Avatar movie, just so you can see the trailer. That's
same company writing the checks for both those movies too, by the way.
I know. It's just a shame that we had to. It's a shame they went and they outlined it rather than just doing it. I feel like if they had just done it, word of mouth would have spread saying, hey, there's a trailer here. And then, oh, wait, this is a different trailer. And like as the weeks go on, word of mouth alone through social media and things of that nature, it would have just done its job on its own. You didn't have to tell us.
Yeah, and if the rumor's true, next week's teaser is Thor based. The following week's teaser is Doom based, and the following week's teaser is an actual like all-encompassing, minute and a half teaser of the movie itself. So, and I think it's pretty accurate. So, there's people that had this Captain America stuff a couple days ago, despite it really just coming out in the last 24 hours. So, a lot of the same places reporting what the 4 different teasers are. I said it off the top, so I'll say it now. It's fossil-like thinking to think that no one's going to release bad quality versions of this online or descriptions of it online. I know there's some of the pro go to a movie theater crowd going, they're doing it for the love of movie theaters. It's like, no, they're doing it for the love of their own fucking pocketbook. There's a difference. Had it been attached to a movie that wasn't a Disney movie, but still made sense to attach that trailer to it, then I'd say, yeah, you got a point. But Avatar, their own fucking movie, fuck off with that shit. Like, no fucking way. And I just don't know how I feel. It feels very much Civil War 2.0, right? Like, I'm 100% convinced, and you know where I stand with this, that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is going to appear in one of these next 2 films. Somehow, some way, I don't know the technicality behind it, but I firmly believe, especially now more so than ever, that he will be in one of these 2 films. So we'll have to wait and see. Joining us right now, it's the birthday boy. Bonne fête à toi. Bonne fête à toi. Bonne fête, bonne fête, bonne fête à toi. There's some French Canadian happy birthday for our guy, Channel Mod, sponsor here at House of the Empire. It's Dustin. What's going on, man?
Not much. Doing well, guys. Thank you for the birthday song, Sean. I appreciate that.
Have you ever had someone sing you happy birthday in French?
No, I cannot say that I have.
Well, there you go. I'm hanging my hat on that one. It might not be a super good gift, but it's one that no one else got yet.
Yeah, or ever. So happy to be here.
All right, so let's talk Halloween game here. Some things come into life here. People might have noticed that if you own Dead by Daylight, your opportunity to purchase the Halloween content for that game is coming to an end in January of 2026. And that's not a coincidence, people. That is Trancas and company are pulling the plug on it. They want to focus on their own game. So if you want a chance to play that terrible looking Haddonfield map from that game and that terrible looking Michael Myers from that game, you are quickly running out of time to purchase that content. So that's the first piece of news. The second piece of news is this. There was some people worried when Boss Team Games was involved with this game that this game was going to launch with a, bare bones level of content. And we talked about it on the channel. That's what we had heard when Boss Team Games was involved. This is going back prior to last year's WrestleMania, this year's WrestleMania. And when Boss Team Games launched their Evil Dead game, there was literally only 2 playable online maps. 2. And there was some worry that that was going to be the case here. Now, when you look at the online maps that have been revealed so far by the X account, I believe they've revealed 3, possibly 4 of them. And I'm here to tell you today that there is a 5th online map, meaning that we're getting at least 5. Because I know details on one of them specifically, very specific details. And it's not one that they've unveiled. And on top of that, this one online map I'm referring to, and this is going to be a bit of a tease. So come back on the 29th for the rest of it. But this specific online map may have two parts to it. So the location has two different maps, essentially. And it shouldn't be hard to piece together what that is. Thus far, though, Dustin, I wanted to send it over to you first, man. What are your thoughts on the reveals that we've gotten on this game? And it certainly seems, at least in my opinion, that we're not going to have to worry about the amount of content in the game. Where are your thoughts on that at this point?
Yeah, I think that it's all about the messaging. I think they had to get out in front of some of the negative, and rightful so, feedback that they've gotten from the previous games they've put out. So I think it has to do with them coming out and saying, look, we're not just putting out something that's going to be bare bones, that there's not going to be enough content for, that you'll play for a weekend and say, well, I've seen and done everything I can to do with the game. I think a game like this needs to have longevity, and I think that they're doing a good job as far as explaining what they're going to do. I think there's going to be more information that's put out at a later date as far as like, hey, let's do a deep dive into it and what you can do. I'm actually really excited. I think that the more stuff they put out about this has gotten me more excited. When you first hear that it's going to be the asymmetrical type horror game, you're thinking, okay, well, we've been seeing this a lot. It's kind of been done to death. So having them take this approach where, hey, we're going to have a lot of content, not just that, we're going to have single player. It's got me excited to actually want to spend money on this. And vote with my wallet and say, okay, I'm willing to let you, have a chance to put out something that people enjoy. And I think the more that they communicate what they're planning on doing, and eventually, hopefully, having content ready to go as far as DLC in the future, is to be a game that's supported long term, not just in the short term. But I think they're doing it right.
Randy, your thoughts on the amount of content we may or may not get at launch for this game? It sounds more promising than it once did.
Well, and it kind of needed to, right? There's so many different locations you can use. There's so many different timelines you can use. Obviously, even though we're focusing on a specific timeline right now, we know moving forward, there's a good chance that we're going to get to see more, I wouldn't say futuristic, but just stuff more current times versus old school. But I feel like what they're doing it right. They're doing a good job of giving us a little bit of something here and there. They're not just kind of, okay, here's this. Now we're just going to kind of slow down. 3 months later, oh, here's this. No, we're getting a little something, at a pretty good pace, I feel like. Obviously, we know how much they're getting ready to ramp up because of them pulling all the content from Dead by Daylight. Obviously, as of January, I can't think it was January 16th or something like that. I read earlier that not only are they pulling the characters from the store, the map from the store, but the map will no longer be playable in the game, and neither will the characters. So if you don't have the characters, you're never going to get them, and you're never going to see Haddonfield after a certain point in time. Which is smart on their part, considering they want to focus on their game, which I totally respect for them to do that. I think what is kind of cool is it feels like they've learned from Friday the 13th, and instead of giving us challenges like they did with Friday the 13th, they're giving us a story, which I'm excited for. That alone, the idea of being Michael Myers and going through a single player story was always exciting. And the fact that they're going to continue to add on to it as time goes, as part of content, that's absolutely amazing. So I really feel like they've taken the time to put something together that's, I think, is really going to be satisfying for the fans. And I feel like this is something that they're going to support for a long time coming. And for Halloween fans, it's absolutely perfect in terms of gaming wise. Now we just need to get the movie or TV or whatever, or both going, and Halloween fans will be eating good.
Yeah, it does seem like things are tracking in the right direction. Just remind me, Dustin, you had your say on Halloween, right?
Yeah.
All right, I couldn't remember. Super tired over here. All right, now Dustin, you have seen Welcome to Derry, right? The finale.
Yep. Yeah. I'm all caught up.
All right, fellas, let's dive into this. Wow, this will be the final topic for tonight too. We're gonna save the John Cena last match thing for when Johnny can be on. Try to mute yourself, by the way, Dustin, when you're not talking. Wow, I didn't, pun not intended on that one. The Welcome to Derry show makes me want to yell at the top of my lungs at Miramax and Trancas and wherever they currently sit with that Halloween TV show and go, stop. Because your show cannot be, 25% of what Welcome to Derry is. You cannot release a show of the writing quality, production quality, and the emotional engagement that's only a quarter of what that show did, or else you're failing. Welcome to Derry, I thought might be good, and really just blew me away. Again, this is recency bias, and it's something that I've said on this channel for a long time is a real thing, and a lot of us fall victim to it, and I may fall victim to it right now. But I am willing to say that Welcome to Derry is the best Pennywise related project that has ever been released. And one of the reasons is it had time to breathe, right? Like when you combine the length of all the episodes together, it is about a 9 hours basically for 8 episodes. And they did a knockout job. You care about the characters. There's a moment in this episode, which I'm sure we'll get into, with, a character given the middle finger. And because of how the show is developed and how the characters are built up and what is put into them, something as small as a character giving another character a middle finger resonated so incredibly well emotionally. And I get it, Halloween's a slasher, but I've said all along that if you want Halloween to work on the small screen, you better create new, interesting, unique characters that we care about. They fucking pulled Dick Halloran from The Shining into this series, and he's arguably the most in-depth character in the entire show. And I'm just blown away by the series, guys. Like, I'd give this series a 9 out of 10. I honestly would. A couple of major plot twists the last couple of weeks. I loved it. I wasn't sure how I would feel, but man, the love and the care that Brad Caleb Kane and company put into the series shows week after week after week. Dustin, I'm going to go to you first, man. You're the birthday boy. Your thoughts on the Welcome to Derry finale and season 1 as a whole?
I everything you said, I couldn't agree with more. We actually agree on on a movie or show, Sean. So this is strange times. You sang to me in French, and now we're agreeing on a show or a movie. I absolutely think Welcome to Derry has been one of my favorite shows this year. The fact that they were able, like you said, to take their time and explore the characters, I prefer what we saw with this show over Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. theatrical movies, as far as establishing the lore, building up the characters, giving you time to live in their world and understand what they're going through. And I think the thing that really surprised me was the use of it, and how in the early stages, they don't use him too much. And then you're figuring, okay, they're eventually going to show him. And they didn't lean too heavily into it. In the later episodes, they did. There were some plot elements with the military where I was kind of like, okay, where are they going with this? And they kind of went by the wayside. But everything else, from the acting, the set design, the set, the cinematography, and I absolutely love the stuff they're doing with talking about the dilation of time, and that it does not experience time like other people. Like, what goes forward is backwards, what's death is its birth. Yeah, it's incredible. The last couple episodes were just outstanding, and it got me really excited for what could come next and what they're trying to do with the next series, the next 2 seasons. But I think it was outstanding.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off you too. Obviously, this past episode was just wow. To lead into it, considering like having the previous episode and like the heavy nature of some of the topics, and just having that penultimate episode lead up to this, where you're kind of wondering, hey, where are things going with all this? I also like the reveal that Pennywise is more of a, I guess, just a primordial being doing what he does, versus the military kind of being a big bad of sorts in the end. Even though you kind of saw it coming, the writing was on the wall. The military doing what the military always does when it comes to, potential power. At least that's how they're portrayed in books and movies and whatnot. So that really wasn't a surprise, even though it was a really nice added wrinkle to it. But the tension in this episode, and I don't know about either one of you two, but when I saw that fog rolling in, I was like, what are they going to tap into the mist now from Stephen King on top of all this?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what they did.
I was like, okay, let's just create the multiverse here all in one big fell swoop. But ultimately, the pacing was good. The drama was excellent. The tension in a lot, because you never knew, you just didn't really know what was going to happen, because these are characters that you don't know. And that's something I love when it comes to a series that's well done. It's one thing if you know the characters. It's one thing if you've read the books. It's one thing if, like with Star Wars, you know what Anakin becomes. You know he gets redeemed, but what you don't know is how he got to that point. So but still there's plot armor. None of these characters have that except for one. But technically, as you go through this episode, you realize a lot of these characters had plot armor that you weren't aware of until this very episode. And I thought that was a really nice thing to just save for the end of the season, instead of having it right off the rip, where some shows will do that. This didn't. This gave you the feeling of everybody's in play. No one's safe. And that first episode dictated that by killing off a bunch of the kids right away. And then we get to this group of kids. This version's Losers Club, essentially. And I always thought that was cool that Pennywise would antagonize them with that. But yeah, I'm ready to delve into some spoiler stuff though. But like you, Sean, I give this series for so far season 1 a 9 out of 10, just like you.
Yeah, I give my score. I'm definitely at a 9 out of 10. And I love Rich as a character. That whole moment was fantastic. And the kid actors did an amazing job, and especially in the later parts of this. I mean, the whole season and what they were given, but the ending was really moving. And just the middle finger was so good. And one thing I didn't touch on is I loved that they were able to focus on Pennywise the dancing clown and why him and why it chose that form, and that you kind of get a little bit more of the character, and seeing Skarsgård portray that aspect of that character was really good. And I think um, I'm excited. It has me really excited for the potential of new seasons, but I'm not sure. I know that they had 2 other seasons ready, but I know with the acquisition, how all that's going to work. Sean, I'm not sure if you have had any info on that.
Well, they haven't filmed them yet, to be clear. And the next season will not feature the characters from this season. The next season, there are 2 options for it. It will either be 1935, or what would the year be? Would it be 1908? Would be the other possibility.
So I think it's supposed to be
those
set 27 years prior to this season, and then the next one after that's the 27 years prior to that.
years.
Right.
So
The massacre, I think the building fire, and then the robbery massacre, I think, are the 2 linchpin points.
yeah, for sure. Very curious to see what comes of all that. I know there's talks of releasing the It Chapter 1 and 2 supercut, because there's a bunch of deleted stuff. This franchise is in a really good spot right now. I don't expect a acquisition to hold this up, to be honest. Outside of The Last of Us and House of the Dragon, this is the 3rd biggest show on HBO Max. So it did incredibly well for itself, and the ratings only consistently went up. They didn't start high and then slowly go down or stay neutral. They went up, and I think that is a very positive thing. Just, again, completely blown away. The Richie moment, obviously, the speculation was that Richie, from the It movies that were just released in the last several years, was the the namesake for this Richie. Turns out that is completely true. So that was a big moment. The mist element. First of all, that was no natural mist. I'm 100% convinced that was the mist from the Stephen King universe, and it makes you wonder, maybe, just maybe, is Pennywise from the same dimension as the mist creatures? They seem to be blending all this in together. But yeah, maybe talk about some Randy, I'll hand it off to you next. Maybe talk about some spoilers, things you liked. And I will say this. Poor Dick, who was probably my favorite character, him and Richie, hand in hand. Poor Dick heavily is underestimating a certain hotel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That was great.
That was a nice little nod, and I just kind of sat there and shook my head. It's like, oh boy, are you in for some fun? But I mean, that's just one of the many nice little nods they did to the Stephen King properties in general. Obviously the whole thing with Richie caught me off guard, and I admit I got a little emotional over it just because I was not expecting to see the character return, and in such a very Richie way of, giving Pennywise the finger and helping everybody. And then of course, with the funeral, Dick's like, yeah, he's there. He's going to be with you the rest of your life. I mean, I thought that was a nice little send off. But yeah, just at times, the whole way they set up just the episode to have Pennywise go to the school and capture all the children, and do the whole Pied Piper thing all the way to the lake, and it's just, it was so well done, and just so I was not really thinking that's where they were going with that at first, and I thought that was just kind of really cool. Obviously, every kid's dream, especially if they ever have an asshole principal, to watch him meet his maker, but I don't think anybody was expecting that. But it was. That's one thing that shows never shied away from, is the gore, and the effects are done so well. But
Yeah.
overall, I feel like the kids really shine through, not in just this episode, but in the series as a whole. I mean, the adults were more of the supporting cast at this point. Even though the adults all had their moments, the kids really were, had their heroic moments. They had their growing up moments where having to make those tough adult decisions that, you normally don't see kids that age have to make. And I think that was really well done. And even with the emotional maturity that they all had, you still got to see just that fear and that indecisiveness. And those kids have a bright future. No doubt about it there.
Yeah, I really love the use of gore in this. It wasn't overly done, but when it showed up, it in so many shows, it's like The Walking Dead, you get gore in every episode, right? And it's just over the top, and you just kind of there's so much of it, and you get kind of bored from it. And this, it was like every time something happened, you're like, wow, that was horrible, and it had such an impact on the characters. And I just love when Halloran was inside Pennywise's head and trying to trick him, and the acting from Pennywise there, kind of like, who are you? What are you doing here? And like kind of like freaking out a little bit was great. I loved the design with him having been in the, like, going into his rest. And then when he releases and goes to the school, you're like, wow, anything can happen here. Like, he is completely set free. And what they've done a good job the whole series was kind of building in those moments of, this is how this character, the lore of this being, of this entity, and what it's doing and what it aims to do. And then using Halloran as that kind of crux to explain some of the stuff and be able to have practical reasons why this stuff is happening. Yeah, it's just so well done. And I love Skarsgård's portrayal in this. He just has so much more to do in this, and he's just genuinely creepy and also kind of hilarious at certain times, where I'm just like, wow, he's, the look he gave Rich as he was giving him the finger running away, it was just, yeah, they really nailed it.
Yeah, I really do think this thing came out about as good as it possibly could have. I hope
Am I the only one who cheered when James Remar's character got killed? Just curious.
Yeah, I love him so much from Dexter that I'm like,
I was like, you're an asshole. You need to die. And I was like, oh, Pennywise bit his face off. Perfect. Let's cheer. Let's go for this.
Yeah, Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just wish, the military aspect. I was like, okay, where are they going with this? And what are they aiming to do? And I was kind of like, this is their plan to unleash this upon the world, to make them more subservient and to go to one ideal, and that we're fractured. And it's just kind of like, wow, these people are seriously dumb. And seeing people get what they have coming, right, is always great.
Oddly enough, his character is probably a character we are going to see again, if not in the 1935 season, in the 1908 season. We'll see how it all plays out, but just one hell of a job by them. And it raises the bar for any really horror franchise that's debating doing something like this. And also, it really now makes me want that Shining TV series that got canceled many years ago, but have the same guy that's in this show play Halloran again. I think that would be a lot of fun. I guess technically it was an overlooked TV series, but whether that will ever come back again, who knows?
I do have a question. When he did say he was going to Europe to be a chef at a hotel, and maybe I know the actual hotel was in Colorado. I had a blank moment where I was thinking, is the Shining Hotel set in the UK, or I thought
I
it was
didn't think
set.
he said Europe.
No, he didn't. Okay, I thought he had said he was going to Europe to work at a
Maybe he
hotel.
did, but I don't recall him saying Europe.
I'll have to double check that because I remember that was kind of like, wait, that's not in Europe, that's in America. Maybe he's working there before he goes to the hotel, and they were just using that as like oh, he's going to go here to this hotel, and then eventually he makes his way to the hotel in The Shining, which is set in Colorado. And so I was just kind of, I'll have to double check that, but
It could be. I'm not sure. I still think the same little joke there applies with the how bad could a hotel be?
yeah,
Well, quite bad. And those who haven't seen Doctor Sleep, I was talking to Randy about this off the air. You need to watch Doctor Sleep, specifically the director's cut. I think it's one of the best horror sequels ever made, and Dick's in that as well. So that's all I'll say about that. And Ewan McGregor is fantastic in it. That being said, fellas, we're around the 90-minute mark and basically done for this evening. So I want to wish both of you a very Merry Christmas, because the next time we will be back is potentially the 29th. I believe that's the plan. Randy, I'll send it over to you first, man. Where can everybody find you at?
So you can find me over at X at Gady Giles. Also, recently, due to some personal reasons from one of our hosts, we've put a hold on the Sports Brew until things get cleared up. But rest assured, if you we have a very large back catalog of over 400 episodes. If you're just curious to listen to us banter and bullshit, you can Google Sports and Brew and find us no problem. As soon as I know when we're going to be resuming recording, I will put it out there on social media for everybody who's interested.
And how about you, birthday boy? Where can everybody find you at?
you can find me here. I'll be whether I'm modding or joining for guest appearances, shows, whatever it may be. Going to be joining the Discord here later on the Facebook page. Feel free to interact there and get some conversations going. But yeah, you'll find me here, and I look forward to what the next steps are going to bring for the next year. And I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas out there. Don't get on the naughty list. You have a couple more days left. Be good. For goodness sake. Love one another. Treat everyone with respect.
I like that, yes. Not that I like to go down this line of thought on our shows, but treating people with respect is a good thing, even those that have recently died, unlike some people who cross certain lines that shouldn't be crossed. And we'll end with our thoughts and prayers go out to Rob Reiner and his entire family for the tragic loss of his life and his wife's life, and just a real sick story, and arguably sicker aftermath story too. So happy holidays. Hold your loved ones close. Tomorrow's never a guarantee, so live today while you can. For Randy and Dustin and Johnny early on, I'm Sean. We will see you again on the House of the Empire.